Oh, hi.
Hello.
I know. I just heard that little kitty.
Yeah, she's very my cats have Gemini moon, so anytime I start to do anything that's not directly talking to them, they get all, hey,
Ah,
I'm over here. So
hey, hey.
yeah.
All right. We are streaming. We are live.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Here we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring that down. I'm gonna just make my screen a little bit smaller so in case people do have questions, they can jump on and ask and I can see them come through. But either way, Goddess, it's me and you. Hello,
Yeah.
everybody, and welcome to the Everyday Goddess Live. We're doing a thing here. We're doing a thing where we're going to bring together the sacred and the science, and we're going to talk to you about how they both fit in your life because it can be both. And that
Yes.
is what the Everyday Goddess is about, right, Lolly? Oh, yes,
Yes.
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 Today, I have an exceptionally amazing guest who I fucking absolutely adore. And she is also very active, one of my love leaders in the Everyday Goddess gang. And I'm going to let her introduce who she is. And then I'm going to talk about what we're doing here today. So please introduce yourself, Goddess Love Leader.
Yes. So hi everyone. My name is Loli Moon, and I am the mystic behind Mystic New Medicine, which is my kind of portal of love, is what I like to call it, where I offer the exchange of allowing you to understand astrology and tarot and reclaiming your power through your intuition and reconnecting with the divine. I offer astrology readings and tarot readings, and so those are my two deepest passions, as well as magic. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And
Hell,
happy Mars Day.
and happy Mars Day, right? Tuesday. Yeah, we're gonna teach you guys all this. So one of the things, the reasons why I wanted us to have this conversation today is because in my work as a psychotherapist, in our group, in the Everyday Goddess gang, right, we bring in science, but we bring in the sacred, and we have a very unique connection. I think as humans, it's important for us to understand our connections to ourselves on multiple levels, on the spectrum of levels, in relationship to the earth, in relationship to the universe, in relationship to ourselves, and in relationship to the idea and identity of oneness. And that is why Loli Moon, like, she is in my group, and we do tarot readings, we do card readings, we do astrology readings. And one of the questions I get asked is, like, I don't know what my sign is. I don't know what this means. What is rising? What is moon sign? What is ascendant? What are all these things? It sounds all like pretty fluffy and really wonderful. But how do I make sense of this in my life? And is this just like, fluffy bunny shit? And let's talk about is this just fluffy bunny shit? And is it not? And how can we actually use this as a powerful tool to provide us insight into the choices that we make with our free will in our human experience on a regular and daily basis? So, Lolly, hey, let's
Yes.
talk about this.
Yes.
What is astrology? So when I say to you, like, what is astrology? What is it? Like, what does that mean for you? How does it come across in you and your work?
Yes. So astrology is it is a way for us to divine and really learn ourselves a little bit more through studying the stars and the planets and how they work together. Now, astrology is a very old ancient practice. It started way back in the Babylonian days. Okay, Babylonian astrology, Hellenistic astrology, Egyptian astrology. That's the oldest type of astrology. But there's also Vedic astrology that is also known as Hindu astrology. And this is
Wow.
also known as sidereal astrology to some people. And so this is a different type of astrology as well. And so the one that I share and the one that I study the most and that I do my readings with, and the one that I would say is the more popular one, not the oldest one per se. Tropical astrology is what I'm referring to. It's definitely the most popular astrology. This is the one that is based off of the sun and your birthday. So, if you're born on March 21st, then, that's the start of Aries season, which is the first of the 12 zodiac signs, and so on and so on and so on. But with
Okay.
sidereal astrology, it's almost like it's this we're studying the stars in their literal physical sense versus through the set fixed amount and length of the tropical signs. So they're the same signs, but they're measured a little bit differently. So the interpretations are slightly different, but they are both magnificent in their own ways. But tropical astrology is the one that is, I would say, easier to understand, and is the one that most people are aware of and are talking about online, especially. Like, it's all tropical astrology.
Yeah. So like when you open up the newspaper or whatever, and you're looking at that's tropical astrology.
That's tropical astrology. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is what you primarily practice, or did I understand that wrong? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was all these different kinds of astrologies. I was just
yes, there's more. There's so much more.
Yeah, I was just like, somebody came up with the 12 signs of astrology, right? Like, and when we're talking about the signs, we're talking about the zodiac signs, right?
Yes.
So exactly. What are the 12 zodiac signs?
So the 12 zodiac signs are is we have Aries first, we have Taurus, we have Gemini, which is the twins, we have Cancer, which is the crab, and then we have Leo, which is what the season we are in currently, and then we have Virgo season, then we have Libra season, which is the only inanimate object of the entire zodiac. And I love to point that out because yeah.
That explains a lot. Just saying. I'm like, that explains a lot.
Yes, it does. Scorpio, and then we have Sagittarius, which is the centaur, and we have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Now, a lot of people think that Aquarius is a water sign because it has the word aqua in it, but it's not. Aquarius is actually an air sign and is the water bearer. So that's actually a form of communication. So Aquarius is an air sign, not a water sign. So we just had the full moon Aquarius just this past weekend. So that is the moon we just had. So that's what we're going to kind of maybe talk about a little bit later. But the 12 zodiac signs are actually based off of fixed stars. And that is the difference between sidereal astrology and tropical astrology. We're taking the fixed stars, which we know are physically in the sky because we know that they're constellations. Exactly. They're constellations. Yeah. They are fixed star constellations. And that inspiration was taken for the tropical astrology. And then we use that to look at the planets.
And that's what I think what I understand, people to kind of underestimate astrology, right? Because, it actually is based on the science of astronomy, right? The science of constellations, right? Like the stars in the actual sky that are burning gas and all of that, hydrogen everywhere and all of the different things, right? Like it's based on actual positions of stars in our sky that shift as we shift. Well, our perspective of them shift as we shift.
Yes.
Right. And that was really kind of like I know a lot of people throughout history have used it for healing, have used it for intuition, have used it to connect with have used it as medicine on so many different levels, right? How can people use astrology? How can it be relevant?
It's interesting because actually this is actually really funny and very much astrology working its own magic, but it was really until like 1666, when people really stopped having astrologers as part of their skill set. Up to that point, if you were part of the courtship, like you had to know the stars. It was like a necessary thing. If you were a doctor, you had to know the stars. It was a necessary thing as part of your practice. Wow. So even like medical astrology is something that I also study and work with. So astrology is very powerful because, everything is as above, so below. So even just that statement is referring to astrology, but it's as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. So it goes beyond that. And the understanding is, if the heavens, the sky is a reflection of the ocean, and that is what we are here on currently, how does this, reflect each other? Saturn, for example, is one of the planets of time. I like to say one of the fathers of time. If we look at Saturn, we can see timelines with humans and how we've evolved through certain things and how we've returned to certain things very naturally.
What does that mean? Tell me what that means, because when you say that, like, I know what that means, but like for people, when you said that, I was like, well, if I was a person who does, like, what does that mean when you say you can see the time of humanity through Saturn? Like on the rings? Like, am I looking at the rings? Like, what am I looking at when you say that?
Saturn, it's very deep. So I'll keep it very like simple. Saturn has a lot of relations to human DNA in various ways. But Saturn, because Saturn, you know, transits through the signs over a certain timeline, when he returns to certain signs again, we're able to kind of see a pattern that is playing out in history. And that's what we're looking at. So for example, if we were to Google right now, what happened when Saturn was in Aquarius back in the so-and-so days, we're going to see what's happening right now. Essentially. It might be a little bit more modified and heightened now because obviously technology and humans were still evolving in whatever, but we're seeing similar patterns, right? Just as fashion repeats itself, we ourselves repeat ourselves too. It's not just fashion. It goes beyond our clothing.
Yeah. Sorry, Arthur is like, he's here for this conversation right now. But I think you said something really, really important there. Astrology reflects back to us the patterns of humanity, of how we live, of our personalities. This isn't exaction. This is patterns. This is reflecting on the patterns in our relationship to these patterns. And that's why I think people kind of fly off the handle. They're like, astrology is like fluffy bunny shit. It's blah, 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 you know? And I'm just like, go, hold on a second, right? Because what we're saying here is now you're saying is you're dismissing patterns that we know exist in the timelines of humanity, of our lives, right? Of interactions, right? You act the same way, people are going to respond the same way, right? The stars and the planets align in the sky in a certain way. It's going to influence us to also respond in that way. The moon, when the moon moves, the oceans move. Like, we know that connection is real. As much as you want to deny it, you can't.
Right. Exactly.
So that's what astrology is for me. For me, as a tool, it reflects on the patterns of us, right? And so it's broken down into the 12, like the 12 signs. Is there another way for me to say the 12 signs, or?
Well, we can say the 12 zodiac signs. We can just say, you know, the signs, you know, and I don't want to, I would say that's the easiest way to say them. It's just the sign, 12 zodiac, because, you know, we know what we're talking about in that sense. But you're absolutely right. It is exactly about patterns. And as you are studying, you know, and as you even just study yourself, because the best way to learn astrology is by studying yourself. You are your own best teacher in life through everything. And so, you know, what we have, and what I'll talk about a lot when I'm doing the tarot readings, I'll say, okay, you want to check your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, right? And so to know that information, you need to know, one, your birthday, which we all do. And when we say happy birthday, as an astrologer, I would tell you happy solar return, because it's actually the time when the sun returns back into your sign. So when I'm saying happy solar return, I'm saying happy birthday. But aside from that, you need to know the time of your birth and the location, because when we're looking at tropical astrology, it's following the stars, but the literal physical fixed star setting is more so the sidereal sense. And that can be a little bit harder for us to predict things in a more accurate level, because the fixed stars are constantly shifting. They're constantly shifting. So for us to try to make a pattern of it is really hard sometimes, which is why I like to use tropical astrology, because it's always very accurate. It's always on time. It's always just like, it's like clockwork. It's funny to me at this point, but you need to know your birth time. And so the reason why is because with your birth time, the rising sign will be a particular zodiac sign. And your rising sign is what we call your chart ruler. And so the chart ruler is the planet that rules that zodiac sign. So we have 12 signs, but we also have the planets, right?
So when I say I'm a Cancer, so I was born July 21st, right? That's my birthday. So when I say I'm a Cancer, when you ask the person, like, what's your sign? What people are really referring to is their rising sign. So that primary sign, that like number one identifier that you're talking about right now, it's I'm a Cancer, right?
Yes. So no, your sun, that's your sun sign.
Oh shoot.
Most
See,
people are referring
this
to
is
your
why we're
sun
doing
sign.
this.
Yeah.
See, this is why we're doing this. Okay, sun sign, my bad.
Yes.
Right? So sun sign. So when someone asks me, so what's your sign? You know, you're going on a date, you're on the Tinder, you know, you're like, what's your birthday? Because you want to know their sign. Because like, we are done with Scorpios. I love Scorpios so much. But like, you know what I mean? When people make those jokes, when you see those jokes, right, you're just like, stay away from Libras, or like, Cancers cry too much, or like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, right? What we're talking about is actually our sun sign.
Yes,
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
because that's that basic information with your birthday, that is your zodiac sign. But we also have, so again, we have the sun sign, but we also have a sign for all the other planets, because just as the day of the sun was in, you know, the zodiac of Cancer for you when you were born, the moon was in a certain sign, Mercury was in a certain sign, Venus, all of the planets were in a certain sign across the galaxy. And so you actually have more than just the one sign. And so when we're looking at your natal chart, which is where I'm saying you're studying yourself to understand your patterns as a being, you're looking at your Mercury sign, which is about your communication. You're looking at your Venus signs, which is about your relationships, and so on and so on and so on. And as those planets move and interact with your natal chart, you can see how certain things might come up for you throughout life because they interact with your particular chart. So
and what I like about the natal chart is that it doesn't, like, it's not dependent on like where you were born, like where in the world, right? Like, so I might look up and see the stars in one way here in Ontario, Canada, right? But someone in like Perth, Australia is seeing a complete, and that's why the natal chart brings us insight, because it doesn't look at it from the position of like where you physically are. It looks at it from the planet in relationship to sky. Right?
Yeah. So you want your location though, because when we're looking at tropical astrology, it's very scientific. So when we're looking at astrology, so for like the rising sign, this is a particular axis on the globe. The sun is rising at a different degree than what it's rising at in Australia. So if I put my birthday time in Australia, I'm not going to show up as a Pisces rising. I might show up as a Taurus rising because of the location difference. So it's very scientific in the sense that we're looking at the Earth's axis as to where the sun's rising at a certain degree of that location. And that's why when you pull up your chart, you'll have the longitude and latitude come up as well, because it's very scientific in that way.
So, see, I like that because it's specific to you. I really like that.
Yeah.
Because I think people will be like, so what's your sun sign? So now that I got it right, it's like, what's your sun sign, right? And it's like, well, if I'm a Cancer here in North America, but like in Australia, like how am I still Cancer? But it's like, it's different. And that's why, you know, we go into rising and moon signs and our natal charts, because that's where the uniqueness of the personality trait, right, comes from. It's more than just like, here's your horoscope in the newspaper. It's like, you know, what are your personal patterns of your experience in humanity?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay. Okay. So sun sign is like the main one that we all know. Right?
Yeah, that's based off of the calendar, the calendar that we use as like time and space and whatever, the calendar.
The Gregorian calendar that some like dude was like, and here's the 12 that not everybody in this planet actually goes by, right? Like not everybody actually goes by the Gregorian calendar. So like that's also another thing.
Exactly.
But then there's like rising and moon. So what are rising and moon signs? Like what do those mean for us?
Yeah. So your sun sign essentially represents your ego self. Your self is how you react to things, your basic self, how you receive things naturally to yourself. So when you open your eyes, what is the filter that you're seeing the world through? That is your sun sign.
Rose-colored glasses. Yeah. I'm a crab. I'm a Cancer. Like a Cancer and Leo. So it's a little both, but like
and then we have your moon sign, which is like, you know, your intuition and your emotional sense. And so how you are reacting, how does this react in an emotional way? Do you react with intellect? Do you react with emotions that are very heightened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You know, how do you, you know, digest things? Do you take them personally? Do you have boundaries? You know, what are the layers in there? But also the stability. I like to see the moon sign as something that shows us a form of instability and where we might be seeking more stability, because the moon is constantly changing. The moon is constantly going through the zodiac. Every single month, the moon goes through all 12 signs. Okay. So for example, right now it's 1:26 p.m. and this morning the moon was at the 19th degree of Pisces.
I saw that,
the moon moves one degree every 2 hours on Earth, just to give you guys specifics. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So as of right now, she's probably just leaving Pisces and she's going to be making her way into Aries. So if you've been feeling kind of tired today and kind of like, I don't know what's going on, like what year is it? It's probably because the moon's going in between signs right now.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so she is very much so at our emotional side. And then our rising sign is how we are perceived by other people. So not how we receive the world, but how the world receives us. And so if you are someone who might be, let's say, I don't know, an Aquarius, and you give off different vibes and someone's like, oh, I thought you were a Cancer or something. And maybe you're Cancer rising. That could be why, because you're perceived a certain way from your peers.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to sneeze maybe. Hold on. Okay. So that's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Okay. Thank you. So that's what's really interesting, because people will be like, they'll read their horoscope and they'll be like, that's not me. Like, you know what I mean? Or you'll meet other people like in your sign and you're like, nothing like this person. Exactly. And it's probably because your moon and your rising are so influential.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some people have the same sign for their sun, their moon, and their rising. Some people have, I have
one different.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, we did it. I know when you and I did our chart, and then I was like, oh yeah, because I'm a. First of all, I'm a cusp kid, so like the next day it's a Leo, so I'm already like from the get go like. In my duality. And then I have a Sagittarius placement and then another Cancer trait placement, which is why I'm like so like gooey sometimes and like can cry and fluffy. Like it's the best. But my Sag is my like big fight. My Leo and my Sag have a lot of like through. So
yeah, exactly. And so that's the thing, like this is why we look at, we're looking at the charts. Like for you, we looked at your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, but we also looked at your Mercury placements and your Venus, but also your Jupiter placement, because Jupiter sometimes is looked at as a personal planet. I like to look at him as a personal planet. More so we're looking at Mercury, Venus, and Mars usually for personal planets. In love readings, we would look at, Mars and Venus. But if we're looking at overall personality, we would also want to include Mercury because of communication. But sometimes I like to look at Jupiter because Jupiter is very much so, the king of the sky. I like to say Jupiter is massive. He's huge. Like he is the biggest one. And so he takes up a lot of space. So wherever Jupiter is in your chart too, could also show where a lot of your interests and hobbies are, and maybe where you kind of receive some of your traits as a being. So for example, my Jupiter is in Scorpio.
That's why I love you. I love Scorpios. Yeah.
I have 5 Scorpio placements, but I'm a Libra. And so when people are like, you're a Libra, I'm like, yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. I get it. But because I have a lot of Scorpio energy. But, so we're looking at your personal planets too. So it's really interesting because you can get really deep into this hole when you realize it's more than just the sun sign.
Yeah. And these are just tools. Like when we're talking about this, when we're using astrology, right? When I use it with people, when we talk about the reason why I have Loli in the gang is because this is about learning how we can know ourselves better.
Yes.
Right. And that is what is the most important, right? That is part of our soul journey, our human journey. Whether you sit in science or in sacred, the whole idea is to how can we learn ourselves better?
Yeah.
In relationship to others, in relationship to ourselves, in relationship to our oneness. Right. And that's why, having this understanding, these tools, like how do I present? What is the ego? How am I being perceived? And then who am I really? You know what I mean? I think taking a moment to understand and investigate those relationships can be super powerful from a psychotherapeutic perspective, from from an astrological perspective, from a sacred and divine perspective, right? And that's why, it's cool to have this conversation, right? And to be like, okay, but how can you just know yourself better? We do all these other personality tests, Myers-Briggs and all these other numbers things. This is just another tool in that.
Exactly. It's like another tool in that, but it can go as far as you want it to. Honestly, I would say you can use astrology in anything. I would confidently, I can say that. I can say that I can use astrology in anything that I do. Because
I would agree.
With, thank you. With astrology, when you start to study your natal chart, for us who are here, we are all magical beings, obviously, because we're all doing this kind of work. And I know you guys talk about, shadow work a lot too, and like doing a lot of that internal healing and that inner child work, and like tapping into the divine feminine and creating that balance and harmony of the divine masculine with the feminine side of us. And a lot of that can be shown in our astrological charts. So for example, I can look at someone's chart and see where your triggers are with your daddy issues. Okay. I can look in someone's chart and see where your wounds are. I can see where maybe at this age you had this happen because of this particular pattern going on, an aspect going on. But that's because I also see with spirit's lens, right? So I'm also a seer. So for me, it's like a fresh pair of glasses, no problem. But to that I say, the first step you want to do is get a reading done so that you can understand your chart. So understanding your Mercury, how is it that you communicate? How do you receive communication? When you are able to understand your Mercury placement, you understand how your mind works a little bit better and how you can kind of navigate your mind to be its best self, because your mind is something you have to learn to control. Otherwise, you will not be able to reach your peak and your ascension.
Call yourself out. Yeah, right? Like that's the work you and I do. Call yourself out. And this, like, when you can see, right, to reaching your peak of potential, right? When you can see some of this, you can be like, okay, there's the pattern. She's not wrong. Right? And now how can I face this kind of bullshit about myself, right? Or learning or love and, all of the different challenges. And I think, I think it's important, Loli, for us to say that to kind of buy into this, do you think it's important for us to have an understanding that we are soul beings and that we choose when to come here, like our souls choose to come and to embody these bodies? Or can you understand astrology or have an appreciation for it without that lens?
You definitely can. You definitely can. And I'll say that because one, as much as this new earth and is shifting and the old paradigm we're talking about is shifting out, and some people will be saying, what does that mean? Well, you'll see in a few years, but we know what that means. And so things are really changing. We see it in the way technology is being used these days. Like we have all these different new things rapidly being made and created for humanity when necessary. So from a corporation lens point, if I'm someone who likes to buy into stocks, for example, I'm probably not, not everyone's like this, because there are many people who are in stocks who are also very highly divine, intuitive beings. However, there are plenty who are very much so just in their masculine energy, just in the ego energy, just in the idea of, I'm here to work. I'm here to make money. I'm here to build a generational wealth. And that's it. I'm not here to talk about my faith in it. I'm just in it for the whatever. And that's cool. With that being said, you can still benefit from an astrology reading, because Jupiter, which rules, fortune and abundance in various ways, plus Venus, we're looking at, if I'm talking about crypto, I'm looking at Uranus, because that's the Aquarius and like internet type of energy. And I'm looking at all these different placements to see, is this a good time for you to be buying? If I'm seeing some tough aspects with Uranus to Jupiter or Saturn especially, I'm probably going to say like, you should probably lay low for now. So for example, right now, like today, we have a square with Uranus and Saturn. And so if we're looking online, I don't check the crypto online business stuff, but if I were to go online right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see that it was crashing, because that's what it is in the stars playing up right now. So you don't have to be tapped in and be a woo-woo and have your crystals and follow the moon to do this. Like, you can just use it as a tool because it's there for you.
Yeah. And that's, you know what? I love that you said that. I love that you said that, because like astrology can make you money. Right. And I think that one of like the secrets of many leaders, to be honest with you, throughout history has been that they have always had an astrological consult. Always. I think, once we uncover so many stories about leaders, from like presidents to CEOs to kings and queens, right? Like everybody had an astral consult.
Yes.
So don't get it twisted.
That's
your
right.
human does, your
That's
humanness does respond to this divinity, whether you want to appreciate it or not, right? Like, do you know any good stories about like leaders or anything that use?
I mean, there's this quote, I forgot who this quote came from, but someone said, millionaires don't believe in astrology, but billionaires do and use it. And so I was like, well, that's that, money talks. So there's that. But, there are plenty, like, I mean, there are some celebrities that I know personally that, definitely follow astrology and use astrology. But if we're looking at like Hollywood, for example, even certain movies that I've seen come out this year, I'm just like, there's an astrologer behind this campaign because it aligns perfectly with certain things that are happening. I'm just like, that's really interesting. That's really weird. And so, definitely the royalty of like Egypt, ancient Egypt, all these great kings and queens and empires and emperors and empresses, they all had astrologers in their courts for sure. There's I think it's Christian Dior, or no, maybe it was Jean-Paul Gaultier, one of those two designers. Before they launched their business, they had an astrologer, fortune teller, reader come in and like tell them like, listen, like, you're thinking about doing this, you should do this because the next few years, blah, 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 blah. And like, they are an iconic, there's so many stories of astrologers.
I'm pretty sure I saw like Bill Gates has like someone, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody has an astrologer. Like, Elon Musk is trying to go to the moon, for crying out loud. You better believe. I mean, he's like with Grimes. Like, let's be real. Elon Musk is with Grimes. They 100% have astrological consults.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you met Grimes? Like 100%.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's just some laws that are timeless. Laws of attraction. Laws of, you know what I mean? And the stars are a lot, like they haven't changed since the beginning of human existence of time.
Right. They're
so
right there.
That constant has to mean something. And that's how I see it. It has to mean something.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
And I think people really need to, like you said, like stockbrokers. I know stockbrokers who consult astrology, who make money because of that work, so that's why I really wanted to bring this conversation in, because I think right now, like you said, like, we know that we are entering this like new world thing, and you will see in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to look back to 2008 and be like, whoa, world is nothing like this anymore.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
And I think that there is a lot of, I'm going to say it, whitewashing of new age bullshit right now. I think that there's a lot of, that Karenism in this stuff. People are making commodities off of crystals and like, you know what I mean? And like, everybody's got to make their money. And I fully appreciate that. But some people are jumping into it for the money, not for the sacredness, not for the divinity, not for the exceptional tool that people can use this magic as, and have actually overlooked the centuries, the beginning of time, of the experience of multiple cultures and ethnicities in appreciating and using these types of skills and divine tools and work in their existence, right? And now all of a sudden, like, white people are jumping on it, turning it into money. You've got like Spencer Pratt being all of a sudden this like crystal dude. I'm like, wow. What? Oh my God, did you not know that? Okay, no. Do you remember the show The Hills, which I never watched?
I know exactly who Spencer Pratt is. Like, I'm a Hills girl.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, oh girl, for the last like few years. So when The Hills stopped, they were like, let's create a new business. And now he's this like crystal guy and like sells all these crystals to white women in LA, like, because they're cool. And to be fair, I'm all for a little bit more peace and love.
I mean, good for him. World. He needs the realignment anyway. So blessed be.
Yeah. We're not hating on him for it. You know what I mean? But like,
that's hilarious.
Some people are just seeing that, but they're not seeing the people like you and I who have been in this kind of world, but especially people, and I'm just going to say it, people that are non-white, right? Who have used these tools for so long, be discredited in this relationship because of the whitewashing of new age work right now.
Yes. And the difference I will say in the communities with this is that in the indigenous world, like magic is not just magic for fun, it's magic for survival. The magic that I practice, that I know, it's like, wow, it's so powerful. Yeah, it's literally survival. It's the reason why I'm actually standing here today. I'm not supposed to be here. It's because of the magic that they did why I'm here. It wasn't for fun. It wasn't to be, you know, hard, stiff as a board, light as a feather. Like, no, it was because they were going to be killed. Like there was no choices. So, you know, the practices are very different. And I feel a lot for the indigenous communities, especially because, you know, especially with like ayahuasca culture and like psychedelic culture and all these different things. And, you know, plants all have spirits, and every single indigenous culture, I will say, I'm sure, believes that, you know, the plants have spirits. Spirits are in everything. It's in everything. So when you overproduce that and you create this with the crystals and the this and the that, it's creating a different type of spirit. But I mean, you know, this is something that we can also see in astrology too, though, because this is something that I was talking about so Jupiter went into Aquarius officially last year in December. And this is something that I was saying was going to come with Aquarius energy with Jupiter, because Jupiter is the future. And Aquarius, it's all about inspiration. Everyone loves to copy the Aquariuses. Aquariuses are very like, ooh, everyone wants to be around the Aquarius energy.
It's true. Aquariuses are, all the people I know that Aquariuses are like my most like, out of sight, like out of this world kind of humans. And I'm just like, you are fascinating to me.
So it's like, you know, so with that being said, Jupiter again is abundance, but it's also, when I look at Jupiter, I'm looking at the world. I'm not just looking at small communities. I'm looking at the massive collective as a whole. And so with that, I see expansion of awareness, awakeness, human, you know, evolution happening. And it's turning into, again, this idea of occult and magic. We just had the new Craft movie come out, maybe a year and a half ago. They did like a new Craft movie.
I'm saying it right now.
Yeah, it was not super great, but I mean, it was whatever. Yeah.
So that's sidebar.
Yeah, but like, you know, so if you go into like you were saying, like Spencer Pratt is selling crystals. I was walking in chapters, I guess this was early last summer or last year, or maybe the year before that. And there was crystals literally just all over the front area. Like you would walk into it, you could see the Starbucks, then you would see crystals, and then you could see the actual books. And I was like, wait a second, what's going on? And I was looking at these crystals and they look lifeless. They look so sad. And I'm just like, this is really just unfortunate. Now, unfortunately, as Jupiter right now sits in Pisces and is slowly going back into Aquarius, we will see this heightened again. But as Jupiter goes into Pisces, we're going to be diving even more so into this huge cultural shift of more about psychedelics, more about, you know, peace, love, and this and that, more about cult kind of culture, to be honest. People really like falling into these like weird culty kind of groups where, you know, so that's where we're kind of heading right now.
Okay. So that's important for us to know that, like, if you're being attracted to people,
be aware
as to what you're kind of signing up for. Because I mean, I think I'm curious that, you know, I think the rise of cults has always come up in periods throughout history. And one of the most recent was definitely like, you know, 70s and 80s, when we had a lot of cults, and, you know, cults that would like, you know, commit complete suicide together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you're saying, because I had that thought the other day. I was like, I bet you we're going to go into something like that again soon. Right? Because of post-pandemic, psychological reactance. So the human experience, our brains are looking to connect, are looking to find safety, are looking to find constant, right? So cult behaviors, groups, joining big groups, all of that kind of stuff is going to feel very appealing. A lot of people have had the truth of many of their relationships open up in this pandemic, right? With lockdowns and stuff. So people are feeling very disconnected from the worlds, from the communities that they thought that they were a part of. And then all of a sudden, just like that, everything is changing. I mean, I chose to transition from a ton of friendships in this past year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a part of that is reconciling some of the loneliness, some of the being alone, and coming back into your power with that.
Yeah.
And I know if I'm feeling this, and definitely a lot of other people are feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hearing what you're saying is we're going to see another big rise in that kind of community building in relationship, though, to the occult, to astrology, to the
Yes.
divinity,
Yes.
with those names and those titles on
Yes.
them,
Yes.
because they give people different tools to feel in their power.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's almost like, you know, it's similar to just like oxytocin. Like when people
Yeah.
go to church and they catch the spirit, right? Like it's that
Yeah.
high, that adrenaline rush of spirit that you're receiving. That's what it
Yes.
is. And it's going to be very appealing. It's going to look like, you know, from farm to table dinners, and all these really like, ooh, I want to be a part of super fun, you know,
Yeah.
family dynamic space. And I'm not saying they're all bad. A lot of them are really healing and really beautiful and definitely necessary.
Absolutely.
But a lot of them can, depending on who's behind it, and if it's just one person, then that's obviously a huge red flag to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that going on. So as we come out of the pandemic, or, you know, at least with things slowly kind of opening up a little bit here and there, we might see more of those, you know, over the seas kind of traveling type of retreats happening, where people are going to particular places to have those experiences, and then maybe creating their own groups after those experiences, because that experience was the initiation into the call and they don't realize that.
Good awareness there. You know what? That is true. Like I'll find somebody, like somebody will be like, oh my God, I took mushrooms for the first time and like I met God. And I was like, how is she doing? You know, like, and then all of a sudden they're like inspired to like leave their jobs or do the things and to start this whole new journey and understanding, right? So check who you're leading. Check, you know, if you're going to be following people, nothing wrong with that. Learn, use these tools, use these skills, find balance within yourself. But like check in with your leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Like check in with, are they being transparent? How are they showing up? You know, does this feel in your alignment? And if it doesn't, you're also allowed to walk away, right?
Exactly.
Any longer. And certain people and places and things come to us for different reasons.
Yes.
And change is the only thing that is constant. So
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I think I love that we're going into this kind of space as to like, you know, what's to come with it, because astrology is what's informing you, right? Astrology, and it has been your number one tool. It has been the way, and girl, you've been accurate. I know for me. So like, your magic is powerful for sure, right? So it is interesting that as a collective, we are going to be moving more into that space. And to check ourselves as we're moving into that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Honestly, I think it's a good thing, because as much as there's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors attached to it, there's still a lot of awareness and awakeness that comes with it too. So I want people to just remember to like stay true to yourself and remember that you are guiding yourself more than anything. So like trust that inner knowing more than anything, because there's a lot of astrology out there. There's a lot of false astrology out there that can be also very dangerous. So if you meet an astrologer, you know, and you book a reading, you're not sure who they are, don't be afraid to ask questions during your readings. Like speak up. You can, you know, look at their about page, look at their reviews, look at their page. Do they have, you know, what kind of interactions do they have? What do their reviews look like? Do they share
transparency?
Transparency
is really important. That's going to be one of your discernment tools.
Yeah.
Right? I love how you're talking about this. Like, let's talk about how can you choose a person or a tool, right, that is best for you, and how can we see beyond the smoke and mirrors of it.
Yeah. So with people, I would say, you know, we say your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So there might be some astrologers that maybe you resonate with because their story kind of reflects your story, and you know, your inner child is pulled to them in that way, and that's fine. That's okay. as long as you are able to learn something and it doesn't become just this, oh, me too kind of train. And so as you're learning from them, you can take notes if they have videos. Most of us who are astrologists, who are, you know, I would say the legitimate ones who I would trust to share with other people, we all have content online that is free, that you don't need a reading for. So whether that's through a podcast, a YouTube channel, Instagram Live, Facebook Lives, whatever it is, watch their videos and take notes. You might know some basic stuff about astrology, like your sun sign, and that's okay. You can still use your sun sign to follow. You can also use actually your moon sign to follow for horoscopes. I like to check my moon sign sometimes too. My moon sign is Aquarius, and sometimes my moon sign is more accurate than anything else because the moon returns in that sign again every single month, whereas the sun is not. So, you know, you have options. And so as you're writing those things down, you're writing the notes down. If you keep a journal, if you have any type of mindfulness practice, which you are in somewhat of a way mindful in certain ways about yourself, if you are watching astrology videos, let's be honest, and you'll be able to see how it plays out with you. And, you know, I'm not saying test that one person and come back and say, oh, this didn't happen to you, so you were wrong. No, we're not going to do that. But just keeping it in mind and looking back at it once the time is done, you can kind of reflect to see what aligns for you and what doesn't. And if you notice that things are aligning for you, you know, over time, maybe follow up with a reading, maybe start doing your own research and see what you find. But honestly, you'll find your people because your guides will just guide you naturally. And you might go through various teachers through astrology as well too, and that's okay. You know, some people, again, because everyone's perspective is very different.
Be okay to have various teachers, mentors in relationship to your divinity, in your journey. And even outside of divinity, in your relationship with your psyche, right? With your mental health, right? I always talk about, you know, from a psychotherapeutic perspective, I always say to my patients, and I say, listen, you have to believe that I can support you, right? You have to pick up my vibe. I'm just doing my work here. And it is important that the mentors or the supporters or the healers or the counselors, whoever it is, whatever name you want to give it, that you're surrounding yourself with, you can understand that you get to choose whether you invite them in your life. B, you also get to walk away if it no longer feels good. And C, if they make you feel otherwise, then they fucking suck. And they never had your best intentions to begin with. Right? Because that's the one thing that I say to my patients. I was like, listen, if you don't want to see me for a year, but maybe in 2 years from now, you book an appointment, I'm going to still welcome you with open arms, because maybe what I'm doing right now isn't resonating with you. And that's okay. Find somebody else who is resonating with you, because you and healing you is the most important here. Nothing else. Right? So people who show up in that type of energy, that type of transparency, like Loli, like myself, like many other people who we share in community with, that's the kind of energy I think, you know, you need to look for when you're looking at learning and getting on this journey. And if it starts to feel funny, then it probably is, for a variety of different reasons. So maybe take a step back.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And honestly, because astrology and the divine and all these things are so popular now, you probably know someone who you probably aren't looking at who actually does astrology readings, or at least knows someone who does. And so, you know, word of mouth is still very popular. So, you know, look at the people that you're following and look to see what's coming on your explore page, and look to see if things resonate with you. And if you look through their profile, what do you feel when you go through their profile? What do you sense? And go with that, because that too is going to help you kind of find the right person. Now, I will say this though, if you're going online like Instagram looking for someone, just make sure that they're not sliding in your DMs trying to offer you a reading, because that's not an actual person. That is someone trying to scam you. It's bad news. Just delete and block and move on, because no one, even if they're a novice astrologer that actually wants to help you and has actual knowledge, they're not going to be in your DMs. Okay. So if you get any of those weird messages, just don't try to book with them, because it's not real.
Not real. Yeah, it's not real. I get those messages all the time. DM me for your reading. I'm like, why? No, I got my people. We're good. I was
It's so
like,
crazy.
we're good. Thank you so much. Okay, let's take a quick step back to astrology though for a second, and take a quick look at okay, let's just have a little bit of fun and like, what do the different signs mean? You know,
Yes.
like, because there's 12 different signs. Let's look at what they kind of mean. You're saying that the zodiac starts at Aries. Is that what you said? I
Yeah.
apologize. At Aries. So like, what is Aries? And give me just like a quick couple sentence as to like, what can we expect from those in Aries, or what are some characteristics?
Yeah, so Aries is the first of the zodiac because Aries is a cardinal sign. And so the cardinal signs are the signs that start the seasons. So Aries starts the spring equinox. That's why it's the ram. The ram is the first that breaks out free and goes on, right? That's Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is a bit about aggression and war and action and fire and heat. So Aries naturally is someone who can be a little bit bossy because they are cardinal signs. Someone who might have, you know, what I call a pirate / sailor's mouth, in the sense that a little bit, you know, action and passionate, very extreme passion, but also someone who's also very active, because Aries is about the muscles as well. So in medical astrology, it's the muscles. So someone who's very active, someone who is very vibrant, very loud, very bold is Aries energy. Very masculine, like very like just very masculine energy is Aries.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like, you know, with Taurus is Venus. So
Taurus
with
is next.
Taurus will be next, yes. And Taurus is the bull. And so Taurus is ruled by Venus. So this is the element of earth. So more gentleness, more about stability and wealth and money. So richness, the earth, fruits, you know, birthing ideas, physical, literal birth in its own ways. But also like just wealth and money is really much so associated with Taurus, honestly and truly. But because it is also Venus, we want to look at food and agriculture as well, because it's earth. When we're looking at the next one, that would be Gemini. And so Gemini is the twin sign. So it's the two beings. And this is the sign of Mercury. So Gemini is usually associated with communication. So they're usually pretty chatty. They probably send you like a 5-sentence text message and then send it off, and then send another one, and then send it off, and then send another one, and send it off. It's probably Gemini texting you.
Yeah, it is. That's true. That's true. That's true. I have a friend who's a Gemini, and I'm like, oh my God, like, breathe before you text.
Yeah, that's Gemini. But also Gemini likes to have fun. Gemini is very childlike. Gemini is nostalgia as well in certain ways. They're also naturally funny because they're air signs. Then we have Cancer. So Cancer is another cardinal sign like Aries, because Cancer starts the summer solstice. So Cancer is the crab, water. So we want to think about emotions a little bit, but also because Cancer is ruled by the moon in astrology. So Cancers are known to be very mothering. The moon represents the mother in astrology. So this is kind of where that comes from. Cancers are very nurturing, very mothering, very sensitive, but also very cautious, I would say, as well, because they have claws. And so they know that they have their own ways to defend and protect themselves in certain ways.
Yeah, I'll mess you up. Yeah. Well, so just sidebar before we go to get into Leo. It's funny because all month long, because July is, typically the Cancer month or whatever. So all month long, everyone around me was like, I can't stop crying. And I was like, welcome to my life. This is what it's like to be a Cancer. And then literally as soon as the signs changed into Leo, all my girlfriends were like texting me, and they're like, I feel so great. I feel so wonderful all of a sudden. I don't want to cry anymore. And I was like, welcome to Leo, baby. Like, now here's the sun. So if you pay attention to astrology a little bit, you can see that being reflected back in your life. So for those of you who are watching, we're filming this, July 27th. If for the past month you have been uncontrollably emotional and crying and just really sensitive, that's what a lot of Cancers feel like all the time. And that's that energy of that month. And now we're moving into Leo. So tell us about Leo.
Yes. Yes. So with Leo rules the sun and is the lion. So, you know, they're very flashy. They're me, center of attention, high like the sun and how everything else goes around it. Okay. And they're fire. So they are also very passionate. They're also very much so ruled by the heart center. So they have really big feelings. That's why they seek validation so much. That's why if you don't clap for them, if you ignore them on purpose, if you give them a silent treatment to a Leo, oh my goodness, they might have a heart attack, to be honest, because they just can't handle that. They hate it. They can't handle that. But I love Leos. I love Leos. I love Leos. I have a Mars and Leo placement. So my Mars is in Leo. So like for me, for like pushing things forward, it's very like Leo, very like, I will bully you into this because I know it will work. So yeah, Leo season is really, really fun. Leo season is full of a lot of interesting energy. Lots of portals open up during Leo season, which is really interesting. Leo season has very special connections to ancient Egypt as well in certain ways. So it's a really important season for us. And so is Cancer season actually too in its own ways, but maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Let's go through the signs and talk about where we're heading now. Okay.
And then for Virgos are Mercury. It's also an earth sign. So Virgos are they're not as chatty as Geminis in terms of the communication signs. They're more so just observed and very like a step back and reserving everything. They're very intentional. They're very much so about very simple, pure, clean things. A Virgo probably has a bunch of green plants in their bedroom with all white bedding and vanilla candles. That's very Virgo energy. You know, going to the spa and having, you know, an organic grocery list afterwards is very Virgo energy. Beyonce is a Virgo. Having a list is very Virgo energy. Yes, but also having an itinerary for everything. So even if you're going on vacation, when the person who's probably a Virgo placement is the one who's planning out the entire trip. The Virgo and the Sagittarius. Then we have Libra. So Libra is another cardinal sign because it starts the season of fall. So the fall equinox, aka witch season. So Libra is very impatient in terms of being a cardinal sign. It is an air sign. So like most air signs, they are very much so known about for communication, being intellectual. But Libra is also a Venus sign. So there is this idea of I'm social because I like art, because I like to show the art, because I like to be a part of the artistic experience, aesthetics, shopping, blah, 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 blah. Like that's all very Libra.
Very pretty.
And also very pretty. Yes, very pretty and very like bougie sometimes, relationships, sometimes a little, you know, relationship crazy, maybe some of them. You know,
so, calling yourself out now. Okay.
Yes. But Libras, so Libras are that. And then Scorpios, I would say them are a very misunderstood sign. A lot of times they get labeled as like very intensely sexual and things of that nature. That's actually not true at all. Scorpios are very reserved people. They're very picky. And if they're going to be, you know, having any type of kinky type of fantasy with anyone, it's because that person is like as close to perfection as they can find. Scorpios are very skeptical and, you know, they don't trust very easily. And a lot of times maybe they've gone through certain things in their life. And that's kind of why they've kind of fallen under that star sign. So they're very skeptical. Sometimes they're a little bit paranoid. They can be a little bit distant, but they have deep emotions. They're very, very, very passionate lovers. They're very, very, very loyal when they are in alignment. If they are in their distortion, Scorpios can be very nasty. Because they are Pluto, okay? They are the darkness. They are the shadows. They have a stinger. So they are very much so intense and will bring you a lot of awareness of yourself. When you meet a Scorpio, you're probably going through some sort of transformation in your life.
There's a lot of intentionality with Scorpios, and I think that's why I love them.
It's very, yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, Sagittarius is the same in that way, where they're very picky too. Sagittariuses are Jupiter ruled. Scorpio is Pluto ruled and Mars ruled. So Sagittarius is Jupiter ruled. So Sagittarius is very loud, very vibrant, very much so the party of the party. Okay.
That's
like
my
they
placement.
are, they're the party. They have all the playlists. They are very fun. They love traveling. They love knowledge. They love education. They love psychology, especially a lot of Sagittarius placements love psychology or studied psychology that I know of anyway. And they're very very optimistic, you know, and that can be a little intimidating for people who are not at that level of self-love or at that level of like appreciation of everything. Sagittarius are going to look at things as always cup half full and want to walk on the yellow brick road. So yeah, they're really, really smart too. So they're not just pretty, they're also very smart. Now, Capricorns are ruled by Saturn. And so Capricorns are very restrictive because Saturn is very serious and very much so about stability and tradition and rules and regulations. And
tell
so
me more about my father. I'm like, tell me more about my father. Yeah, go ahead.
And so Capricorns are very strict. They're very much so about their rules and their regulations. They have their morals, they have their whatever. Capricorns, if they're in the dating scene, they maybe have like a 90-day rule. They have, you know, all these different things they put on themselves. Like, oh no, I have a rule. I don't kiss on the first date. They have these certain things they have to do first before they allow themselves to enjoy life. I call them the Benjamin Button of the zodiac because they are born old, and as they go through life and they do that inner child work, they become young again and they learn to like soften up if they do it. Otherwise, they just stay as Benjamin Button. But you know,
yeah.
So yeah. But Capricorns are known for being very successful and known to do very well with their money and with wealth because again, Saturn is about business, contracts, security, money, etc., things of that nature. So they're very, you know, successful in their own ways. Now, Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, but it's also ruled by Uranus as well. And this is where Aquarius and Capricorn are very different, despite being both ruled by Saturn, because Aquarius is like, listen, I want to be in charge. I want to do what I want to do because I know what's best, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. However, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do the complete opposite way. If you tell an Aquarius to go and do something, they're going to do the complete opposite thing just to piss you off.
Yeah.
Aquariuses are also, again, they're air signs. So their communication style is not extremely chatty. If they are talking, it's because they're talking on a platform to talk to thousands of people the one time about one huge cause and problem and be like, listen up, I got something to say. And then they'll tell you, and then they disappear again. And then they'll go into hiding. But they're very much so for the people. They just don't like to be around the people, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay.
And then Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so and Jupiter. So Pisces is very much so about the dream world and nostalgia and the astral realm, astral projection, Alice in Wonderland. That is Pisces energy, okay? Mermaids, this is all Pisces energy. Sparkly, glittery things and crystals, this is all Pisces energy. Pisces are usually like to sleep a lot because they're the last of the zodiac. They like to sleep a lot. They love their naps. They love their food. They're very sensitive because they're very, very, very sensitive to just everything, not just in an emotional sense, but also in a physical realm sense. They are just naturally they feel everything around them. So they can be very closed off and very much so hermits in their own way because they're like, ugh, I don't want to deal with all that. They're also very intuitive because they're the oldest of the signs, to be honest. That's why they're the last one. They're the elder. So they're also very misunderstood, I would say, like Scorpios in their own ways. So yeah.
We just had somebody comment and say, I'm a Pisces. I'm like, yeah, okay. I love Pisces. And as you were going through the Pisces, I was like, yeah, I have a friend of mine who's like, I was just like, yeah, that's her. Like, I was like, that is a Pisces. Like, absolutely. So then Pisces wraps up the zodiac and then we're here to 12 again.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. I love how we went through all of these and we're just like, you know, just some basic traits, and like knowing your sun, moon, and your rising can be really complementary. Like, you know, we're talking about Pisces, for example, but if you have like a Cancer in your moon or your rising, as we were talking about Cancer, you might have been like, oh, like, but that also resonates with me, right? And that's why we talked about how this is about establishing patterns and looking at your patterns. So Loli, tell us, just to kind of wrap up this beautiful conversation that we're having, what can we expect a little bit? Let's you know, connect a little bit and be like, what's to come? What are we?
Well,
what's a little reading, you know?
Well, yes. So with the stars right now, there's a lot going on this week, actually. One, we just changed signs, right? So we went from Cancer season just into Leo season. And so Leo season is very vibrant because we actually have 2 full moons in Aquarius this season. We just had the first one on the 23rd. So the beginning of Leo season, but on the last day of Leo season on August 22nd, we have a second Aquarius moon, and that is actually a blue moon. So it's very, very, very interesting. We're in a weird cycle of endings and beginnings right now in terms of the energy of Aquarius. So us reflecting on our friend groups a lot and kind of asking ourselves, are we aligned with people who are authentic to who we are? Do we need to maybe shift out of some of these groups and focus more on other ones that are really going to help us grow in the spaces that we're looking into right now? Are we suppressing ourselves in these groups? Are we being our true selves around these beings, or are we around them because we're trying to benefit from something? What is the truth? Why are we really here? Some of us are even shifting into new groups, and we're gaining new elders, we're gaining new peers and colleagues, and that's really awesome too. So that's really, really great. But this is all part of the Aquarian age. Aquarius is about inspiration. Aquarius is about going above and beyond your ego. What have you learned up to this point? Lots of things. But what are you doing with this information? How are you expanding beyond that? And are you sharing this information? Are you keeping it contained within yourself? Are you willing to challenge yourself? And how is that coming up for you? Aquarius is about a lot of unpredictable changes as well. So there could be a lot of sudden things kind of falling out of the sky, out of nowhere, coming in for us. And we're just kind of like, where is this coming from? It's called a test. It's called a bowling ball in the China shop. And you got to figure out how to deal with it. And it's just to see how fluid you are, because Aquarius understands more than anybody in the zodiac sign how to detach from observations and how to detach from outcomes. Aquariuses are the most detached people you'll ever meet. I'm an Aquarius moon, so take it from me, okay? Very, very like, if I have to cut something off, I can do that no problem. Like, done. Here are your flowers. I'm wearing black. Goodbye. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
It's done. So we're learning in a lot of ways how to detach from the outcome. So as we're manifesting things for this year and into the next half of the year, right, with Libra season coming up very, not soon, but soon-ish, that's going to be the next big harvest season, because the following moon after that moon is the Taurus moon. So that's going to be a lot of harvest and abundance that comes in the fall. So we're kind of manifesting some of those things right now. And as we're doing that, we also have plans, we have intentions, we have things we want to have happen at certain times, certain dates, certain ways, et cetera, with certain people and et cetera. But the universe doesn't work that way. Our guides don't work that way. Sometimes they want to test us. How badly do you want this? I want you to show me. And so right now they're kind of, throwing curveballs at us and looking to see how we're going to react. Are you going to break down and cry about it and go rolling in the deep? Or are you going to pick yourself up and get on with it and adjust accordingly? Because at the end of the day, whether the journey is changing or not, our destination is still the same. But we have to detach ourselves from trying to control the journey, because that is where we lose ourselves in it. And so right now, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, this Aquarius moon is so intense, it's so chaotic. Okay, well, what have you been doing? Because really, you should be floating right now. We should be floating right now. So if we're feeling a lot of tension, it's because we're holding on too tightly still. And we have to face our ego and say, listen, ego, I got this. You can put the sword down. I got this. I trust me, and then go with it.
I love that you said that, because just the patients that I've been speaking, so my own clients, right, that I've been working with, my patients, and in my own life this past week, like the shifts in relationship, like I'm just seeing that reflecting back to me. That's why I love using this as a tool, right? Because I don't put a lot of this out into like sessions, right? But what I see when I work with people is the patterns. Like I'll have a whole week of people saying the same thing. And, thus far, the theme this week has been, I have to change my friends. I have to detach from my family. Like everything that I thought I knew about a whole bunch of stuff is shifting. Like what is going on? And I'm just expecting that to kind of roll throughout the rest of the week with all the rest of my patients, right? And you're confirming this by saying, we're in that mood. Like this is what is being revealed to people. And a lot of people are being hit with some more bigger reality checks, right? Like I talk about friends that you've been with forever, 20 years, and all of a sudden it's like, well, no, actually, hold on, I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, what I think you're trying to say is that's a big
Yeah.
energy that we're in right now. So to detach from, okay, you can honor those relationships without having to like feel the burden of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, like a lot of times we feel, and this is very Leo energy too, Leos again are very extravagant. So Leo likes to have the stage, a theater, lights, camera, action. So if they're making an exit, it's going to be announced like it's an airport. And it's like, we don't need to do that. We don't need to like, just because something ends does not mean it has to be this whole like extravaganza. It can just be, you know what? We helped each other get through a really great time through our elevation. And I'm really appreciative of that. So I send you nothing but, love and light and healing and continued ascension. And that's it. I want to see you win and eat, just not at my table. That is okay.
Exactly.
You don't have to be.
You don't have to burn it all to the ground.
Yeah.
You don't have to burn it all to the ground. You don't have to get your claws out. You don't just, right?
Be humble. Like, if you really elevate, then show me that by just continuing on with yourself. You don't have to make it a whole situation. Now, unfortunately, again, it's a full moon. So, and this, again, it's 2 Aquarius full moons. So this is kind of coming in waves in certain ways too. Now, the second wave will be really interesting. So the first wave is like an introduction, the beginnings, because this moon happened at the 1st degree of Aquarius. Now, on August 8th, so as of today, right now, it's July 27th. We're actually at the very beginning of what we call the Lionsgate portal. And so the Lionsgate portal is something that is ancient Egyptian kind of studies and occult studies more so, but it does tie into astrology because it happens obviously during the Leo season, which is why it's called the Lionsgate portal. But essentially it's when the star Sirius, the brightest star in our galaxy, shifts down into alignment with the sun and other stars here. And so it shifts into alignment. And on August 8th, so 0808, this particular star Sirius aligns with 3 of the stars of the Orion's belt, which then align with the pyramids. And it's a whole very mysterious
that's a whole
thing.
Girl, that's a whole other webinar. That's a whole other
Yes. But just to give you guys a quick little intro what that is. But anyways, long story short, it's so magical. And this particular year, it's even more so magical. And I'm doing some things for that too myself, is the fact that the new moon in Leo happens to be on that exact same day, the 8th of August, on the Lionsgate portal day. Yeah. So that Lionsgate portal day, the new moon in Leo, is going to then grow into the second full blue moon in Aquarius at the 29th degree, while Jupiter and the moon are like this close together. So Fortune and Gaza, like it's going to be a crazy, 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 crazy moon in the best way possible. I'm really excited for this moon. But anyways, as we go into that new moon energy, the Leo moon is going to bring us a lot of deep reflection of ourselves and reflecting on our self-growth. Because again, the sun sign, which is Leo's energy, allows us to reflect on ourselves and how we are receiving the world, right? So what have we been learning? How have we been growing up to this point? What have we learned through these Mercury retrogrades, through this Pluto retrograde, through all the things that have been going on this year? What have we learned? And how are we showing up for ourselves that way? And so with those revelations, that grows, and we start to ask ourselves certain questions like, wait, this didn't add up. What does this mean? And then the full moon happens and we start to receive those answers. And then that's where the cleansing work, the releasing work kind of happens. So that's where we're heading into right now with the Aquarius moons. And on top of that, tomorrow, we have Jupiter.
I was like, there's more? Oh my God. Am I going to survive the next 30 days? Like,
there's more.
I need to stay home. I'm just going to stay home.
Yeah, there's more. So tomorrow, Jupiter actually officially re-enters Aquarius. So all that energy we were talking about in regards to businesses and companies kind of tapping into this like magical realm, that's going to be reshifting even more so. And we're going to see a lot of changes, I want to say, with the internet and just with like how social media is working right now. We're already kind of seeing it already with, Instagram TV. You now see like ads showing up. There's going to be even more stuff, like more influencers coming out as spiritual beings, more paid influencers, selling crystals and things of that nature. So it's going to be very interesting of the real versus the fake, but with Saturn in Aquarius, everything that is fake comes to light. So looking at the politics and things of that nature, we're starting to see as well, with Jupiter entering Aquarius, we're going to see lots of things kind of come out into the light in the next few weeks. So
buckle up.
Buckle up. It's right.
Buckle up. It's going to be an interesting August, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's really, it's intense in the sense that it's very loud, but a lot of it is just like, you saw this coming. Now it's time to just do the work. Let's prepare for the winter. Let's move on. And then in Virgo season, we'll then, kind of settle with our new foundations, and then the growth happens. Then the harvest season happens, of course, during Libra season. And so we kind of have like, the season's changing, and we're preparing for the winter, and we're doing even more reflection and more shedding and things of that nature. So it's all serving us for a higher purpose. These Aquarius moons are very, very, very important for us to remember who we are as people, and our self-worth and our authenticity. So, whatever is being sent to you right now, or, put in your face right now, you need to see it. So just be open to it, have an open mind, and don't judge yourself for whatever you're seeing as well. That's really important.
Compassion. A little bit of, we all need to practice a little more compassion these days. Oh my goddess, Loli, thank you so much for this. I hope that this gave people just like a little bit of, a 101 as to like when you come into the group and, you're talking about everyone's tarot and everyone's zodiac sign and, doing your magic in the group, or if you're watching other people, that this gave you a little bit more insight as to what to expect, how it works, how astrology and how magic can actually be a really powerful tool for us to use in our human experience. So Loli, tell everybody, how can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. So I am at Mystic Moon Medicine, mysticmoonmedicine.com. If you are someone who is wanting to learn astrology, I do have a Patreon there as well, where I teach astrology mini courses, but also there is the podcast. So like, this is something you can just go and play on your own. They're pretty long. You can pause it and take notes. You can listen to it as many times as you want. And I really break down the explanations of things. And yes, I add in sometimes the scientific words, but I'm also really, humanifying and translating it in human terms, what I'm saying for people, so they can kind of understand what's coming up and what's coming up for themselves as well. So you can find me on Missing Medicine, and and of course on The Goddess. I'm here always.
always, because it's love, 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 nothing but it. Yeah. Oh my goddess. Thank you so much, Loli. Thank you everybody for watching. Yes, and let's end our chat as we always do. We get our hearts up. We get some big love, and I love you. I love you. I love you, sending it out into the world.
Thank you. Sent and received.